Hello, designers and developers. We're on to practice project 2, the cafe menu, where we get to do CSS. If you remember, our cat photo app had nothing beautiful on it except for adorable cat photos. So now we're getting into, we're going to have a background image. You're going to center a nice menu, get things to line up the way we want, get some little icons, which are just images, a nice hard rule. And yeah, let's get going. So start coding. Here we go. So we have a basic structure. So we're going to do our basic structure. Remember in VS Code that this is an automatic thing. Start our HTML. And then, oh yeah, always with the language attribute of English, because that's where we are doing our thing. And then let's see, and then we'll end our HTML. For now, we always open and close our tags. We don't just leave it open. Let's keep going. Now we're going to have a head with a title. Start our head. You guys, let me show you real quick. Here's my VS Code. All right. So hopefully, I hope I showed you guys which of these to install and how they worked. Okay. Let me show you real quick. We had this first site, this index. So when we were doing this before, in the head element, these are all the meta elements that we had. The only one so far that they've showed us, the only two, are the character set of UTF-8. These are compatibility metas, and then we have a responsive design meta here to tell the page how to display. So this is the one that we're doing right now, and with the head. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that, and this is going to have a different head element. The title is going to be cafe menu. Whoops, okay. Go ahead and, there we go. Meta character set, like I said. They are self-enclosing, meaning they don't have to have opening and closing tags. Now we do our body. This is where we're going to put everything. The body is what is seen by the visitor. The head is what is being communicated to. Yes, I know. I want to become a supporter. I really do. Ask me later. If you guys noticed, that showed up a little bit after. We're going to have the main. That ask me later showed up after the page had loaded, after a few seconds. That is a JavaScript function that we can create. Okay, H1. Gonna go through this kind of fast. This is just us setting up. This is how Camper Cafe. This is how every HTML document is going to get set up. Doesn't matter. We're giving it capital to make it stand out. What's kind of cool is if we were, we are using CSS, but we could have done the capitalization within our CSS instead of just in the HTML. Oh, sorry. Okay. And now we're going to do a paragraph element underneath. This is just, oh geez, this is standard. Sometimes we would have an immediate H2 tag, just like what we did. But normally we would kind of describe or, something about the H1. There would be two sections, one for coffees, one for desserts. Add a section element within the main so you have a place to put all the coffees. Okay, so we make a new section, area, what I would normally do. Let's put my stuff here. With a section, I would want it on 2 separate lines, and I would want to, because I'm nesting. So now H2. For the H2, I would want that on just 1 line. Because it's not like a structural element, it's more of an outline element. Up until now, you've been limited regarding the presentation and appearance. So start taking control, add a style element within the head. Okay, so right now, style is CSS, and normally we would have an external style sheet that is connected to the HTML document, and we would do all of our CSS within an external document. But in here, there's also a way to simply embed it in the style. In the head. So I would normally do it in between the meta and the tag style. And my style. We'll see where they want it. I honestly, I wouldn't even do this, but you need to know that you have a way to style a page within the HTML document, not just as an external style sheet. Let's see where they have me do it. Yeah. Okay, they have me do it after the title. That's fine too. So style, CSS, cascading style sheets, is going to have this format where we have the name of the element that we want to add style to. Then we have what is called a property value pair. Remember, in HTML, for the elements, we had an attribute value pair. Now it's a property. So the property of the style, in this case, we're going to do text align. We're going to center it, right? I mean, normally we would have our H1 centered, especially for a menu of this type. When you're in blog posts, you don't necessarily want to center everything because the natural reading is from left to right in the United States. But in this place, oh my goodness, so sorry guys, I'm just on autopilot here. So H1, open our curly braces. So what's nice, I think, when I get into CSS is that JavaScript also uses curly braces a lot and semicolons. So it's kind of nice because it has that. Oh my goodness. Okay. Still on autopilot. Instead of property, I'm going to do text align. So that's the actual property. And then there's multiple values that you could have. All right. So real quick, let me show you over here. If I were to do this in VS Code, let me copy this. All right. So let's say I was doing this in VS Code. I want to show you what would happen if I got rid of this value. And then let's say I just finished text align. Okay, so first of all, notice how it gives me different values. These are these are extra fancy functions that are properties, but this is the very standard. So notice that it says text align and it gives me all the options. Now these aren't all the options all the time. In this case, it's pretty much. So here's the center. So if I'm curious about what properties I can have, I can always just, or values I can for property, I can always just type it in. And then I have all these really cool, reference. I can go to the reference page, all sorts of stuff. In the previous step, we used a selector type. Okay, now we're going to do, let's see, it says center the H2 and P elements by adding a new type selector for each one to the existing style element. So they're going to have us do it separate, but I want to show you something else. Okay, so we're going to do H2. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste this again. Change this to H2. You notice how I have to, and everything on the right, guys, check that out. It's changing. Now, okay, so everything now is centered. Again, this is good for a menu, but it's not going to be good for everything. People like to center their text a lot because it's like, I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's just not the best idea and sometimes it is. So here's the paragraph, text align, and then next, I want to show you that I could have done, well, let me just show you in here. So I'm going to cut this real quick just so I have it on my notepad. But look at what I could have done. I could have done a list. Like, these are all of the ones I want, and I could have done it in one. And so that's the nice thing about cascading style sheets. You can list all of the ones, or you can just do one at a time. And so sometimes you like have the same style for multiple elements, and then one style is different. You can do that too. So anyways, let's keep going. Probably ahead of the game a little bit. Okay, there we go. Good. Okay, now they're showing us you can do the same thing. All right, great. So go back, delete all that. Again, now I'm deleting it. H1, comma, H2, comma, P. I was just ahead of the game. Oh, oops. I accidentally pressed function enter. Okay, great. Okay, so now notice it says we've created a new styles.css. Normally I just say style.css. That's fine. Styles is fine. You just have to make sure that you know which one you're doing. And so you don't have to have the opening and closing style tags on a CSS file because that's what it is already. And so we're now having to start by rewriting the styles you have created. Make sure to exclude the opening and closing tags. So let's go back over here. They have it. Okay, so this is all we're going to take. We're going to take that. I'm taking it from index and then I'm putting it in styles. And this is kind of nice. I have the two. I have my HTML and my styles, and now I can check it. Great, it passes. Okay, so now it says, well, go ahead and remove it. We're just going to show you that you could do this, but it's not the best practice. So let's keep going. You have an external style sheet. Okay, and now we have to link it. Oops. It's funny. Okay, so now we have to link it. Get rid of the styles. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to do a new link element. Okay, link. And it has a relative attribute, rel, R-E-L, or related. Oh. Okay, and then it says the value is style sheet. And then the href, so the reference to it. Where is it? Well, in this case, it's right in our file folder, styles.css. Okay, so I'm going to show you over here. Okay, so this is what would happen if I did it with, if I just start typing in link without, then it knows. It's like, oh, you want the link to the style sheet? Yeah, I do. It's very common. So it automatically fills everything out and gives me the href. The href here in this particular file folder is in my styles, and there's nothing there. So if I do a styles, if I want my styles file, then I actually make sure that I'm selecting on VS Code, open up a file, and now I'm going to call it styles.css. Okay, so here the problem with this right now, well, first I have the wrong HTML, which is fine for now. Okay, and then, okay, so I'll show you one thing. Let me make this a little smaller. There we go. Okay, so my href is styles.css, but the path is not just styles.css. The path in my file folder is styles, there we go, / styles.css. So I have to do the entire path, okay? Now, I don't have anything here yet, so I'm going to take my take stuff from my styles, take all of that, and put it in here. Notice I don't need the styles or anything like that. Now I have autosave on my VS Code. You may not, and so you want to make sure that you're saving. If like your file is not saved, it's going to come up with a dot here. Now I'll go over here to index, and as long as I have the live server extension set up, when I click on index, I can either right click here and I can open with live server. And what that does is it loads the page in my browser, opens up a browser, and I can choose which browser it's opening. You want to look that up if you don't want the default browser. I changed mine to Chrome. And so now I know that we're not doing I know I have the cat photo app still, but it's actually kind of a good reference because it's like all H1 tags that are hooked up to this particular style sheet are going to have this style. Okay, so that's a little bit ahead, but I wanted you to know. Let's go back and just see, you know, VS Code helps you much more. Let's close up the styles and let's see. So we have it, we have the link, we have this. Okay, check it. Perfect. Keep going. So now we're doing the viewport. Okay, so let's do the whole thing here. The viewport is the automatic with our edit. It's basically saying that, okay, when you open this up in a mobile, make it look the same. Okay. Otherwise, it looks really weird. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going. Okay. The text is centered again, so the link to the CSS is working. Add another style to the file that changes the background color property to brown for the body. Okay, so body, I always do it in order of what it shows up in the HTML. Body is the first thing in the HTML, so I'm going to have it up above. Background color, colon, brown. So sometimes I can have just the word color. You can always look up on to see what CSS colors are available. Or I could have put a hex color and it's probably going to show me that next. Let's keep going. But notice that it's brown. Although on my computer, I don't know, to my eyes it looks a little different. It's more reddish brown. Okay, here we go. Keep going. Now the brown background makes it hard to read. Sure does. So let's change the body's background color to be burly wood. It's a cute one. Burly wood. Okay, it's tan. That is easier. Now, I could have checked it, you guys. I could have checked it with a accessibility tool to see. Because if to you, just because it looks like it's okay to you, doesn't mean it's going to be okay to somebody who has color blindness or sight issues. Okay. The div element, I think of it as a divider element, is mainly used for design layout purposes, unlike the other content elements or semantic HTML elements that you have used so far. Add a divider element inside the body element and then move all the other elements inside to the new div. Okay, so we're doing it inside. So I'm going to wrap my main content into a divider so I can do some special styling to that divider. Oops, let's close it. Normally, I would give the divider an ID. Let's see what they have us do. Cool. Okay, good. So the goal now is to make the divider not take up the entire width of the page. The CSS width property is perfect for this. True. So create a new selector in the style sheet that gives your divider element a width of 300 pixels. Okay, so it's after body, so I'm going to do div. No brackets around that, but curly braces to start. Element, style, width. Now, this is a constricting element. This is a constricting property value. It's saying specifically that I want my divider to only be 300 pixels. Not necessarily the best of practices. However, 300 pixels is bigger. So the reason why I say that is because of cell phone design. Okay, and so a cell phone is about the smallest one is like 425 pixels across wide. So 300 pixels is okay. But if you had something like 700 pixels, then it's not okay. It's going to mess up when we're doing responsive design. And again, jumping ahead of myself. Let's keep going. But we've passed. Comments look like this in CSS. Okay, so now we're actually going to comment out the line containing background color property. So you can see the effect of only styling the divider element. That's great. In fact, I would probably, let's do this, and then go to the end. There we go. So notice now it's white, okay? Keep going. Now use the existing divider selector to make the background color of the divider. So now we're just doing, okay, well, this divider that only has a width of 300 pixels, we want that to have a background color. Oh, let's take this whole thing up here. It was commented out up there. I'm going to comment it out, or I'm going to put it in here. So it's, there we go. Okay. Now they had it on 3 different lines. I like that. Okay, let's check our code and continue on. Great. Now it's easy to see that the text is centered inside the divider element, the div element. Currently, the width of the div, specified in pixels, constraining it, change the width, so it's 80%. Much better. 80% is relative. We want it to be relative more than these other types, and relative means that it's only that the entire divider is going to take up 80% of the page. I want you to see one thing. Now, what happened here when I did, if I have nothing there, guys, it takes up the whole width, right? Okay, good. Oops, wow. Okay. Next, you want to center. So this looks weird. It's all over on the left, so it's color. So now we're going to center it, and we do it by margin right, margin left, auto. This is one of the most used, probably property value pairs that you'll use all the time, the specific. Okay, they center it. There we go. So this is a menu. We want it all to be centered. It's going to look nice in a layout if it's centered. Kind of like adding margins almost. So like if this were a PDF, that's kind of what we would do. So now we've just been using elements as selectors. And so we also have class selectors. And this is where if we want multiple elements on a page to have the same style, we can add a class to each of the HTML elements. We call the selector with a class name. Let's see. So we change the existing divider selector into a class selector by replacing it with menu. So we're gonna say menu. Okay. Now that's gonna make it go away because it's not connected to the HTML. So now we have to go back to the HTML and we have to give the class equals, we don't use the dot here. The dot is in CSS, just a plain old menu in HTML. But notice, so while we're styling our HTML, we might come up with the fact that, oh, we need IDs, we need classes. But as you keep going and you get more accustomed to it, you're automatically going to give something a class. You're automatically going to give something an ID. But you can go back and forth as much as you want. Now we're going to do a background. Remember at the beginning it had a cool delete the comment. Okay. Remember, it had like espresso beans. So now we're going to give it a background image of, and then we copy this entire thing. So in this, instead of href, which is what we have been using in HTML, now it's URL. And universal resource locator is what a URL is. Okay. But so is a href. The URL could also be a file within our file system, like in VS Code. In fact, take a look here. We have this images folder. And so if we had an image in there, we could put it as the background. Okay. It looks good. Time to start adding some menu items. So we're going to do an article. Instead of section, it's an article. And this is kind of saying, okay, this is our menu. It's an article rather than section. Does it matter if we use article or section? Well, actually, we already have section. So now the article is specifically coffee. Okay. You guys heard weird laughing and stuff in the background. I actually have 3 sons. And currently their ages are 7, 11, and 15. The 15-year-old has a whole crew of online gamers that he likes to hang out with. I think they've only gotten together once in real life at the mall. Anyways, they have a lot of fun though, so I'm okay with it. But I also don't like them gaming in a separate room from where we are, so I wind up hearing them. Just makes me feel like they're safer. Okay. Okay, so in this case, it will contain coffee flavor and price flavor. And that's 2 paragraph elements inside your article. Done it, French vanilla, and the second is 3. Okay, that, and then 3. Okay, so this is going to look weird because they're going to be exactly right next to each other, but we're going to learn some cool CSS to make it so that they're not next to each other, but so that they're on 2 separate lines. But we will eventually learn. Okay, so starting below the existing, we're going to... Okay, I see. So what we're doing... Okay, I see what they're going to do here. So each article, they're going to have some sort of styling to make it so that the paragraph elements line up. That's my guess. So we're going to have, let's see, using the article with 2 nested inside each as before. Okay, we're going to have both. Okay, so we're going to do 1, 2. Okay, caramel macchiato. So 1, 2. 3, 4, 5. All right, I'm gonna paste all of these. So, French vanilla forever, caramel macchiato. You can see why it's nice to have your visual output next to it. You know, over here, the preview over here is nice. Skip that. Who likes pumpkin spice? It's not my... I think out of these, I like caramel macchiato best. And vanilla. Like, do they ever... Yeah. I'm not a big fan of hazelnut. Not sure why it costs more than everything. It's $4. Notice over on the right, everything is changing. Mocha inside that paragraph. Okay. And that's the really expensive one, $4.50. Not sure why, again, but you know, whatever. Okay, 50. Okay, so we have everything lined up in a specific way. That's great. Check it. Great. Submit it. Great. Cool. Okay, so the flavors and prices. Yeah, that sucks. It would be nice if the flavor was on the left and the price was on the right. Add a class name flavor to the French vanilla. Okay, so the paragraph element is going to have class equals flavor. Oops. Quotation marks, flavor. So we're going to have to add a class, it looks like, to every single paragraph element. Cool. That's fine. Now we have to do it in the CSS. So we do it after menu because the flavor's inside. And then we're going to do a text align of left. Makes sense. So watch what happens. Okay, now it's over here. Good, but we're going to have to do something with 3. And they're going to have to line up. And now we're going to do price, p element class equals price. And let's see, okay. And then we're going to do now we're going to align this right. So I'm going to just put that here, change it to, I can have as many classes as I want named the exact same, and I could like change them. Cascading style sheets is interesting. Watch what happens if I change this right now. It goes over there. So it disregards whatever happened here. That's what cascading means. So whatever's on the bottom is more important than what's on the top. And that's always a weird thing, I think. I was weirded out by this concept at first. Was, okay, why? I don't know. We think about top to bottom being important sometimes. And then, so for me, it was a little weird, but that's what the cascade is, okay? So I can change further down, and that's also something I have to be aware of, that if I accidentally change something, and I'm like, wait, what happened? It might be because I messed up the cascade. There we go. Okay, so now they're on opposite side, but they're still not on the right line. They're still not on the same line. I want them in line. There's probably something we're going to do here. To get them on the same line, you got to do some paragraph. You got to have them be in line. So we're going to do a class attribute in the article. So I feel like we probably could have just selected articles because we're going to have every article the same. But whatever. Item. Okay. Okay. And then we want the paragraphs within the item. So this is nesting. Okay. So we've got the inside the article with the class of item. We want all the paragraphs to display as an inline block. Okay, so we say dot item, which still I think we could have probably gotten away with article, but that's okay. Item P. Okay, so we're descendant selector. Well, it's just we're selecting, and then display inline block. The display property is going to be something we use a ton in order to get things to line up the way we want, especially in responsive design, because we'll say something like flex or grid, things like that. So we'll keep going. Now we're going to spread them out. We're going to add a width property to the flavor and price that have a value of 50% each. Okay, cool. So width 50% and width 50%. Now, why did we make it so that, well, it's not going to work, I know. Yeah, it's not going to work because the whole thing is 80%. Anyways, why did we do only the paragraph elements inside the item class? So we did that because if we would have done all paragraph elements, it would have messed with this first paragraph. So we had to say only the paragraph elements inside that class are going to behave like that. Let's see what they're going to have us do to fix this. Yep. All right. Well, that didn't work, right? It didn't work because the 50% isn't working. Placing them on separate lines in the code creates an extra space to the right of the first paragraph element. Okay, one way to fix this is to make it less than 50%, which normally this is what we have to do. So let's see, what if we do 49%? Because there's an automatic space. Oh, it already worked with 49%, but well, let's do both. Great. Okay, so that worked. Good. There's still a little space on the right of the price. Oh, so we have kind of a margin. You could keep trying various percentages for the width, but instead use the backspace key on your keyboard to move the paragraph element with the class price next to so that they are on the same line. Make sure there's no space. Oops. Oh, wow. Okay. Hold on. This one. So we want to move this. Okay. So now space matters. Okay. No space between them. Okay. It still didn't work though. Okay. I feel like. Now go ahead and change both the flavor and the class to 50% again. Ah, now it aligns correctly. Great. Okay, interesting. So space mattered at this point. Okay, interesting. So now that you know how it works, you can change the remaining article and paragraph elements to match the first set. Start by adding the class item to the other article elements. Okay, so class equals item. I'm going to copy this. See? Oh, it's changing everything. Class equals item. Class equals item.
Were you here for Valentine's?
Selecting, getting rid of the space. Awesome. Sometimes we would use dividers for this. I like this method. It's a good method of putting them in two paragraphs, but then making them inline elements. It's cool. There's so many ways to do things. This is something I haven't done, honestly. So we're going to do price. Okay, so this is flavor, price. Okay, so we're going to do class equals flavor. Take that, copy it, and paste it to all of the first paragraph elements that have the flavors. Now price. 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 Great. Look at that. Fancy, fancy. If you make the width of the page preview smaller, you'll notice that at some point, some of the text on the left starts wrapping around to the next line. This is because of the width of the paragraph elements on the left side can only take up 50% of the space. So let's see. Watch. Boop, boop. Yep. Yep, it gets weird, right? Okay. Cool. So, since you know the prices on the right have significantly fewer characters, change the flavor class width to 75% and 25%. That makes sense. So, flavor is going to be 75. We do this a lot. We do this a lot in styling navigation. Cool. So, now what happens if I start? Much better. It's never going to go smaller than this, guys. I don't know why it would go smaller than this. Okay, moving on. Good deal. Ooh, now we're going to have a new section doing desserts. New section, and then within those sections, we'll have articles for the desserts. First, H2 elements defining that it's desserts. Don't spell it deserts. Okay, article, class, item. I'm copying it from above. Smarter, not harder. Give the class attribute the value item. Cool. So this is cool. We are using, this is a really nice way to see that we can reuse code and why classes are so important, because you can have multiple classes on a page. You can have, and then for IDs, if you remember from the cat photo app, we can only have one ID. Now we're nesting two. I'm going to take this whole thing, copy it, paste it, donut, yes please, 150, great. For the 2P elements, add dessert as the value. Yep, okay, makes sense. So again, now we're saying dessert. So dessert is different than flavor. Okay, so maybe there's going to be some sort of different styling that we're going to do. I'm not sure. Equals. And that same price. Something does not look right. You added the correct class attribute, but you have not defined a selector for it. Add the CSS rule already sets the properties you want. So add the dessert class as an additional selector. So since it's an additional selector with the exact same properties, I just do comma dessert. There we go. Let's check it. Great. Below the dessert you just add the rest of the desserts and prices using 3 more article elements, each with 2 nested paragraph elements. Each element should have the correct dessert and price text. All of them should have the correct classes. Okay, great. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go in, and now we got cherry pie. Cherry pie. Cherry pie is $2.75. 2.75. Cheesecake. Cheesecake. The one thing that's nice about just copying the same one 4 times is that you're going to remember, oh, there was a donut at the top. I don't want to have donuts forever. So it might be easier to just, have them all listed first, and then you just go change in. Okay, let's see. Did I do it right? Oh gosh, guys. 4 article elements in your section. Okay, 1. Oh goodness, look at what happened. I didn't. Guys, I could have seen that. Look at what I did over here. I wonder if any of you were like, what are you doing, Juliet? You're doing it wrong. Okay. Just another reason why sometimes copying and pasting isn't the best idea. But you know what? That's okay. Learning, learning, learning. You could give your menu some space between the content and the size. Padding. Because this looks weird, right? This looks weird. And we'll go over the CSS box model eventually so that you can understand the difference between padding. But imagine padding, you're giving it some space between the elements that it's contained in, which may make some things. Okay, so we're doing it around the menu, okay, rather than like the actual individual articles. Okay, so we're going to add some padding left and padding right, the same value. So padding left, and we'll get into this whole, these different values. Make sure to close it with a semicolon. There we go. Now, you could, the last element, you could get away with not having it as a semicolon, but as a reference, you want to. But notice that I didn't even put pixels here. It's the same, that's the standard, but we always want to put the unit of measurement. Sometimes we can get away with just doing no units. And it'll just default to whatever the browser thinks as a unit. That looks better. Now I'll try to add it to the top and bottom. Okay, so we're just going to use padding. Top 20 pixels and padding bottom. But I want to tell you guys something, and they're going to get to it next. I have the exact same padding for everything, all I have to do is do padding 20 pixels, that property value pair. But they're going to tell us that in a minute. Yep. Okay, since all sides, they all have the same, all I needed to do was put padding. Padding goes, it's actually a 4 value CSS element. So if I had 4 values here, they would each define top, right, bottom, left. It's kind of like a compass. North, east, south, west. And I'm sure it'll tell us that eventually. Add a max width, so this is looking good. I like the padding up here too. That looks nice. The current width of the menu always takes up 80%, but sometimes, right, this is weirdly huge, right? So we want a max width, and this is a responsive design thing. So it looks weird. We're gonna say, hey, you know what? We want it 80%, but my max width, and I'm gonna put it right with the width, just so I have it kind of grouped according to type of style. I want my max width to be 500. I don't want it to be more than 500. I probably would have done it even less. Okay, but that's that responsive design. Very cool. This is mobile first. Okay, mobile first design. We're thinking about what it's going to look like on a mobile, and then what it's going to look like in a big screen. Good. Okay, we can change the font family if we want to. This is all serif, and we want to change it so that the value is sans serif. This is fairly common font that is very readable. It's better, it's more readable than Times New Roman, although in research papers and like APA and MLA formatting, they told us that we had to use Times New Roman often. But we don't have to. We can use sans serif. And one of the sans serifs, if you want to know, we're going to do it all on the body, is Arial 11-point font for APA. Anyways, totally random. Okay, serif There we go. Aha. Changes it so that it doesn't have any of those little curly cues on it. For some reason, it's the default for the browser. I don't know why they do that still, but whatever. It's a bit boring for all the text to have the same font family. You can still have the majority of it and make just the H1 and H2 and give those impact. So we can change that. And notice, this is the cascade. Even though, aha, there we go. Even though everything else is still just the normal sans serif, but the H1 and the H2s are now impact. Even though if we look up here, we declared everything inside the body sans serif. But because our H1, H2 comes after that and changes the font, that's how we can still have it like that. How we can change it. Cascade. You can add a fallback value for the font family. If for some reason this isn't available, then add the fallback font serif. That's just in case. You know, it doesn't work. And serif is that one where it's Times New Roman. Just in case the browser doesn't have impact for some reason. Okay, so now we're gonna make established in 2020 italicized by creating an established class selector and giving it the font style. Oh, I'm so sorry. Gosh, I'm like creating an established class selector. I was very confused there. Established is such a big word. Okay, but we want it to be specific. Now we're using font style. Remember how we added emphasis? This is how we do italic. Again, if I were to do this inside VS Code, I would do, okay, let's just show you in here. If I wanted it font style, and go down there. I'm using my arrows on my keyboard and then I'm pressing tab. And then I can actually see the different, these are some of them. I think there's more, but here's the italic that's standard. Notice that there's normal. Like, why would I have normal? That's because if for some reason, I was like, well, just the paragraph I don't want to be italic, but I still want it centered. I can change the paragraph element back to normal within the cascade. And again, that's a lot of information that eventually you will probably know about. Let's keep going. So now we're going to have it, of course, we got to put it somewhere because it's not working yet. Class equals established. I would really not have that big of a, I would probably just do like EST, right? Whatever. Okay, it's a big word. So the typography of the heading elements is set by the default values of the browser. Right now, we're going to add 2 new type selectors to use the font size property for both, but use the value of 40 for H1 and 30. So this is where we have to have 2 different selectors. But again, we can still have it, see? So we still have this. It's not like we have to change this. We're just going to add more styles using those particular selectors. This one is font size 40x. And I'm going to copy that. Paste it. Notice I always do it on separate lines. Okay, standard. And 30. Okay. Oops. And I was like, wait, why are they the same? These 2. All right, good. Okay, it's that cascade. All right, add a footer element below the main element where you can add some additional information. This is kind of like the, right, the main, and now we got the footer, like, hey, this is who we are, how you get a hold of us, stuff like that, about us, privacy statement, terms, all that good stuff. Okay. And we're going to say a paragraph. Oops. I could capitalize the elements, the paragraph elements. It's not gonna be a problem, but I'm not going to. I'm going to stay away from capitalization all the time. Okay, href. We want to keep it away. Okay, we don't want capitals anywhere, because if we're calling something JavaScript or something else, we might forget that we made it a capital, and that's going to mess stuff up. Great. Now we're going to give it the one with the link. So we're going to make a new paragraph. One, two, three, freeCodeCamp Drive.
Almost sounds like.
Hey. Okay, so you can use the header rule, HR. It's like just a line to display a divider between sections of different content. First, add an HR between the paragraph element and the class established. So that'll look cool. HR. And then we can style it. Because the typical HR, you see, it's just this line. Okay. And then we're going to have another one. Okay. And they're self-enclosing. Right? Okay. Good. Sorry, Puppo. Sorry. My dog's laying down. All right. And then it's going to change it a thin gray line. We don't want it to be that. So we can change it in our CSS and do a height. So we can make it bigger. And then we can also give it a color. For now, we're just going to make it bigger. Yep. Height. So far we have used width. Now we're using height. Great. And now we're going to make the background color brown. There we go. Looking nice. Looking nice. Great. Notice that the gray color is still there. So let's get rid of the border. Well, I would probably put, okay, I just want to show you. Border 0. Okay, could take care of it, but I could also make the border color brown. Okay, does the same thing. Or I could just say border 0. All right, next we have to, let's see. Okay, so the default value of a property named border width is 1 pixel for all edges of an HR element. By changing the border to the same color as the background, the total height now becomes 5 pixels, 3 pixels plus the top and bottom of 1 pixel. So change the height property now to 2 pixels, so the total height is 4 pixels. Good to know. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to add another one between the main and the footer. Okay. All the way down here, main to footer. Let's do one more. Now, because we already have the element selector. Boom, it looks the same. Very nice. Okay, to create a little more room, add 20% of space on the inside of the body using a padding. So now we're going to do even more padding inside the body, 20 pixels. Now, the padding shrunk the entire content of the main. You notice that? So that was interesting. I mean, it shrunk or it added more space. So it's two different kind of ways of thinking. All right, focusing on the menu items and prices, there's fairly large gap between, right? Okay, we don't need it to be that. So we're going to target all the P elements nested within the class named item, and we're going to say 5 pixels because the normal is different. Okay, the normal 5 pixels that's less than what it is, and so they're That's what they're trying to get to. So, all paragraphs inside item. And this one.
You should try and see what the song name is.
Okay, top and bottom margin. Margin top. Margin top is 5 pixels. Shrinks it up. Margin bottom is 5 pixels. Now, it's because everything's on inline, it's all going to, even though we have it different for, well, no, every item, sorry, okay. If we go back and we look at where items are, yeah, so the articles, every article is named item, that's why it's working that way. Cool. Okay, so now it's a better spacing, it's not like that double space that kind of had it before. Okay, get rid of that. Check it. And then using the same style selector in the previous step, we're going to make the font size of the items and prices larger by a value of 18 pixels. That's good. You know, here's the thing is that people sometimes just don't change the font size, and it's just more readable when we make it bigger, obviously. So, yeah, much better. 12 pixels is like the standard font in a browser, but 14 pixels is ideal for reading like large paragraphs. 18 pixels even better. 16 pixels on cell phones. Interesting. Changing the margin bottom looks great. However, now the space between cinnamon roll and the yeah, it looks bad. So let's just do let's see. So let's change the margin bottom. It doesn't match. So add some more space by creating a class name bottom line using 25 pixels. Okay, bottom line. Now we're using hyphens in HTML for you don't use underscores. And then in JavaScript you use camel case. I prefer camel case, but that's fine. Classes always have a dot class. There we go. And then margin top. I can use a tab. I don't have to do space for every indentation. But again, if you want to get used to not using that for coding, then that's good. Okay, so how did that help? It didn't help anything because I don't have that. So I'm going to make the class. And notice I did the margin top. Okay, rather than anything else. Bottom, line, padding would have made the whole thing kind of like a different size. So I wanted to just give it a margin. And again, CSS box model is something we're going to learn, but that's what that has to do with. Next, you're going to be styling the footer element. To keep the CSS organized, we're going to add a comment at the end of styles.css with the text footer. Yeah, that's great. That makes sense. We're just going to be like, okay, well now we're dealing with a footer, where instead we were using the body and the main and everything. And we're still in the body, but now we're going to be in the footer. Moving down to the footer, make all the text have a value of 14 pixels. So we're, oops, sorry, curly braces. We're wanting it to have font size. We don't want it as big as the rest of it, but we still want it readable. That's why it's 14 pixels instead of just the standard. And there we go. The default color of a link has not been clicked. It's on typically blue, and then it becomes purple. It looks weird. To make the footer links the same color regardless if the link has been visited, use a type selector for the anchor element and use the value black for the color. So that's going to make it so that always it's looks the same way. Now, color is text color. Okay, that just straight up color is always going to be text instead of like text color. Yeah. So now this is black no matter what, if we visit it or not. And that's good. If we could style it, and eventually we'll deal with pseudo classes in which we can style, okay, a link on hover, a link that's been clicked, a link that's active, things like that. We could change the color for each one. For now, we're just going to make that. So, oh, there it is, pseudo classes. So pseudo selector looks like this. A visited equals property. So now we're going to change the color of the footer to change the color of the footer visit our website link to be gray. Okay, so it's the only link on the page, so we can continue. A visited. Oops. Color. Okay. Color is gray. So it's like, yeah, you went there before. Good. There's hover. So now we're going to do a hover to be brown. Love it. I love pseudo classes. They're super fun. Oh my gosh. So sorry. You hear him? He's crazy. Okay. Let's see. Oh, let's look at it down here. Oh, it's brown. Still looks kind of red to me on mine. I'm not sure what your browser or what your screen makes it look like. Okay, you can change properties of a link when it's being clicked by using the pseudo selector that looks like a active visitor website link when clicked on. Okay, so the active A, active, curly braces, color, white. It just is showing you, hey, it works. Okay. Great. There we go. To keep with the same color theme you already have been using, black and brown, change the color for when the link is visited to black and use when it's actually clicked. Okay, so visited, instead of gray, we want to do black because that's like our text here. We need to do active. Brown. So the same. Okay. Okay, so there's some default top margin element. You notice the space here is more than the space down here. I mean, we get super technical, but it does look a little strange. I don't know. It's not like super bad, but it's something. It's something. We don't have to have this huge gap. We can keep it up a little higher so that above the fold, meaning everything right when a person looks at it is like right there. We get to more desserts. You know, if we bring it up a little bit, maybe we can see more desserts, and that's not a bad thing. So let's just remove all the margin. Margin 0. There we go. Nice space. We already have padding. So now it's just picking up the padding. And then we can have some of the vertical space between. This is also a big gap. It's not, you know, I mean, this is personal preference, but it's also just like good layout practices. And eventually your eyes will become accustomed to what looks good and what needs to be done to make it perfect. And again, if we lose a little bit of this space while still keeping appropriate amount of white space, then we'll be able to see more when we first enter the page, and that's a good thing. Maybe somebody really likes this cheesecake down there, so we want to let them see it by changing some of the spacing. So now remove some of the vertical space. Okay, so now we're going to change the margin bottom of the H1 to 15 pixels. So right now we had margin top. Oh, I did the whole thing margin 0, but whatever. Margin bottom, because the default margin again is something different. Okay, 15 pixels. There we go. Okay, there we go. Just a little bit. Oh, I still can't see that cheesecake, but I don't know. What else could I do? I could kind of like limit some of the margins of the H2. I wonder if that's what we're going to do. I think that's what I would probably do. Let's see. No, decrease. Okay, so now they want to decrease. Top spacing looks good. It's all right. I could change it a little bit. Okay, loosen this up or tighten this up a little bit. But it's pointless to have a space there. Let's create a class selector named address and use the 5 pixel value for the margin bottom. Address. Oh, you're learning well from this. I mean, I think that being able to see what's happening as we are told to do stuff, I think it helps. Great. Okay, so that, okay, that was good. Oh, wait, I'm like, that didn't do anything. Why didn't it do it? Because we haven't added the address to the paragraph element containing street address. Okay, this one, right, and we're doing, it's obviously the address because it's called the address. I think doing this in one sitting is a little challenging. Give yourself some breaks. But I'm used to having these long lectures if I was teaching this in person. So here we go. Under the coffee heading, add an image using the URL. Okay, let's do this. I'm just going to copy this first so it's in my... And now under the coffee heading, oh, we're going to have this adorable coffee icon. Okay, so image src equals quotation marks, paste it, and alt equals quotation marks, coffee icon, Command C, Command V, check it out. Yes, cute. Probably need to make it centered. Yes, indeed. Let's do that horizontal. Let's do. Okay, so to make the image behave like a heading element, which is block level, we're going to do a block again, display, and then, because right now it's not a block, it's just like a, yeah, it's inline, and so we can't really affect it, but it's also not text, so center doesn't affect it, so we have to do, we have to make it a block first. Okay, so image, selector, display, block, and then margin right. Sorry, this is how we use margin left and right. Auto margin right. It has to be in block display to work. Oh yeah, cute little coffee thing. That's cute. Okay, move on. Great, let's do another one. Nicely done. Hey, we did it. Yay, guys. I hope I hope this worked for you. Let's see. So 90 steps in less than 90 minutes this time. I hope you were able to do it in less than 90 minutes too. And thanks so much. Keep trucking.